Conversations with Nicole. Cole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Wellness Wednesday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about whatever it is we want to talk about. And today's topic is healthy sex and mental health. Healthy sex and mental health. My special guest is Shamaree Brissett, who I actually met on Instagram. I was very intrigued by her page and some of the lives that she does. And so I reached out and she so graciously agreed to be my very special guest today. So I am super excited and delighted to have her with me tonight. But before I bring her on, I want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? We are live on Facebook and on YouTube, and this is an interactive live. So we want to hear from you. So let us know in the comments what city, what state you're tuning in from so we can give you a shout out. This is a safe space for us to engage with one another, and we definitely welcome your questions and your comments. And yes, we are talking about sex. It's not a bad word. We trying to do away with the taboo, eliminate the stigma, the shame, the guilt, all of those things, because a healthy sexual relationship will benefit us greatly. We are sexual beings. And so we're not talking about anything, perverted or taboo. Hopefully we're trying to eliminate the taboo around it. So again, we want to hear from you. So I see a few of you on, but maybe you're a little shy about commenting. So I'm going to move right on along and introduce my guest. Miss Shamaree Brissett is a marriage and family therapist turned intimacy coach and relationship expert. She specializes in empowering women to be fully uninhibited and fulfilled in their intimate and sexual relationships. Shamaree believes that everyone deserves genuine confidence, relationship satisfaction, and unlimited orgasms if they want them. She started Shamaree Lab LLC in 2021 in order to expand her reach as a provider. At Shamaree Lab, she combines reliable support, evidence based knowledge, and expertise along with accountability to help you obtain all that you deserve in relationships. As a sexual assault survivor, a modern Black woman, and a therapist, she combines personal and professional experiences to best serve her clients. So, y'all, help me welcome Shamaree Brissett. Yay!
Hey. Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Our pleasure. So tell us in your own words, who is Shamaree? Not what you do, but who
hmm
are you?
yeah, so I mean, I consider myself to be a very caring, a very loving person. I enjoy 90s and 2000s hip hop and R&B. So I'm very much a person who loves love, loves relationships. I enjoy traveling. And I'm a Black woman, very Black. I embrace that part of me. And all of these things, I'm also from Connecticut. I'm from the Northeast. And so people say I speak quickly. I don't know if I do. I don't think that I do, but you guys can let me know if I do. But all of these things kind of, I feel like, make me who I am, like where I'm from, what the things that I love, and just my experience as a Black woman.
Absolutely. And a beautiful Black woman you are. And again, we
Oh,
are
thank
so
you.
excited to have you here today. So, marriage and family therapist turned intimacy and relationship coach and specialist. So, tell us about that transition.
Yes. So, I mean, I've always wanted to be a therapist. I decided that when I was like a teenager. Mind you, never went to a therapist, never knew any therapist, but I just felt like that's what I wanted to do. And I've always loved talking about relationships. Like I said, that's a big part of who I am, a very caring, loving person. I love love. And so I went to school, became a therapist, and I have been doing that for quite a while. But while this is going on, I'm also kind of having my own experiences personally. In my bio, I mentioned that I'm a sexual assault survivor. And
Mm,
so with that came a lot of trauma and just issues when it came to intimacy and sex in my own personal life. So
mm,
as I'm going to school, learning how to be a therapist for other people, I also am trying to seek out my own services to work out these issues that I realized that I had. And it was really difficult for me to find someone to help. And not that there's not a lot of people, there's a lot of therapists out there, but I was looking for someone who looked maybe a little bit like me, who can really kind of understand where I'm coming from culturally and why I move the way that I do in the world. And that was difficult to find. This is pre-pandemic too, so like before virtual was
mm,
really like the thing. And so I just had a really hard time. And if I had a hard time as a full-blown therapist, I know that there's a lot of other people who are having a hard time, and they maybe don't even have the resources that I did to work through it. And so with therapy, I can only see clients that live in the same state that I have my license. And I feel like there's plenty of more people that I can reach, and coaching allows me to do that.
okay, nice. No, I again appreciate that explanation, and hopefully, folks can kind of benefit from, what you went to school for. It's almost like the best of both worlds, right?
Right, right. So I'm able to utilize that expertise, my personal experience as well, and bring that into my coaching.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, I see we have Miss Keosha on with us in Tallahassee. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate.
Mhm.
So, we're gonna dive right on in. We're gonna dive right on in. So, again, our topic tonight is healthy sex and mental health. Now, I know folks might think, yeah, what does sex and mental health have to do with one another? Um,
Mm.
I think, we talked about before, coming on the broadcast. I think a good place to start is defining what sex is. And so, I believe that words make a difference. And
Mhm.
sometimes we think we are saying the same thing or speaking the same language, if you will. And actually, we really are not. So,
Mhm.
do you get into that sort of thing in terms of defining sex with your clients, or do you have them define it themselves?
Absolutely. So, with my work, I believe that everyone should define and redefine and continue to do that their own sort of relationships, intimacy, sex, and what that looks like for you. I can give you kind of like a general idea to make sure we're in the right ballpark. But from there, getting specific is up to you. And so, sex can be anything that you want it to be. And I know that a lot of times, especially in heterosexual relationships, we think of penetration being sex, but there's so many other sexual experiences that you can have, and you can consider that sex as well. And I always remember when I was like a teenager, I know I went to like a private school. And so a lot of girls, maybe they were like, oh, well, I'm going to be a virgin. I'm going to stay a virgin. And they would do everything but vaginal penetration and say, like, oh, I'm still a virgin. I haven't had sex. And I used to always tell them, it's like, okay, well, what do they call oral? Is oral what? And oral
Mhm.
sex, right? And so, like, for me, I feel like I've always thought in a more broad sense, but even especially doing this work, going to school for it and everything, just learning like it's so much bigger than just penetration, and just opening people's mind to all of the possibilities.
So I'm glad you said that because again, I have thought about that and have been just a little, I don't know, kind of perplexed about it, in terms of whether there's certain things that need to happen in order for the act, if you will, to be considered sex or not. And while I'm very tempted to ask the viewers to share in the comments what their definition of sex is, I am not going to put y'all on the spot like that tonight. But I want you to have an open mind as we move forward in this conversation around healthy sex and mental health. All right. So I
Mhm.
threw some polls out there today asking what healthy sex looks like or what a healthy sex life look like. And I also asked in one of the polls whether or not people had a good sex life. I got one response and somebody said no, they did not. They did not have a healthy sex.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so I will ask this of the viewers, what do you consider to be a healthy sex life? What do you consider to be a healthy sex life? If you feel comfortable, again, expressing that, please do. Again, it's a safe space, no judgment here. We are all, learning from one another. I see my mom is on here. Hey, Ma. Birthdays tonight. All right. So she's down in Miami. Thank you for being here. So
Mm.
a healthy sex life, a healthy sex life. Okay, so I will start, all right? So my thoughts around what a healthy sex life is one in which you are comfortable with your partner. There's a connection with your partner and you are as stated the word that we talked about in the or mentioned in the bio uninhibited, right? Uninhibited meaning you are, there's a certain level of comfortability where you can be
Mm.
free. Like to me, like a healthy sex life is a one in which you are um you're at liberty to be vulnerable and, just enjoy your partner and yourself. So that's
Mm.
about it.
Mhm.
I see we got Miss Pumpkin on. Thank you for being here. Good evening. Good evening. She's here in Tallahassee
Mhm.
as well. All right. So no takers thus far on expressing what a healthy sex life looks like. So
Mm.
I'm gonna ask you, if you don't mind, Shamaree, give us a little bit of insight on that.
I mean, in the most general sense, what I always say is you want to make sure that it is beneficial or satisfying equally for everyone who is involved. So if it's only you, then it's only you. But you want to make sure that you're satisfied, that you're comfortable, like you said,
Mm,
and that you're free to experience all of the pleasure that you desire. So, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you, that you feel free to do so and that you are satisfied in that situation, right? And then if there's more people involved, for them as well. So making sure that it's equally satisfying for all parties involved, and that everyone's free to explore and to experience whatever that pleasure is going to look like.
okay. So what are some of the barriers to a healthy sex life?
So I mean, there's a lot, but mostly what it breaks down to is communication.
Mm,
So whether that's a lack of communication, a miscommunication, a lot of times I work primarily with women, so it's not saying like, "Hey, this is what I need, this is what I like, this is what I want,"
mhm,
or saying like, this is not working for me. Or if you are expressing it, maybe you're not expressing it in a way that's effective, in a way that someone can actually hear it and accept it and take it in.
Mm.
And so a lot of it is communication. There's obviously other things, but most sex problems are not sex problems. So a lot of people come to me thinking that there's an issue with the sex, and it's usually not the sex, it's a bunch of other stuff.
So you have said something right there. Most people think that it's the sex, but it's not. A lot of times it's not the sex.
Mhm.
More often than not, it's not the sex, it's probably the communication.
Right. Or I mean just other life, like so maybe there's stress or maybe there's an imbalance in the load that we're bearing.
Mm,
Maybe I'm going through something mentally, maybe I have a medical condition, like there's other things that are going on. And so that when it comes down for us to have sex and we're having sex, I'm not satisfied or I'm not into it. So then I feel like it's bad. And now I think that we have bad sex. But
right.
it came from somewhere else.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. We probably don't think about that real time, and like you said, we blame it on the sex, and it's really not the sex.
Mhm.
Thank you for pointing that out. We have Mr. Nick Rains, who is a clinician here in Tallahassee. Thank you for being here.
Mhm.
Appreciate you. Nick, I want you to jump on in this conversation now. Nick has a business called the Love Innovators, and
Mm,
dating coach. So we
nice.
and he and I actually have a dating show that we do called Singles Mingle, where kings meet queens. He and
Mm,
I and Roz win. So we have some relationship and dating conversations quite frequently.
mm.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So you mentioned communication being a barrier. It could be stress. It could be medical condition. Any other barriers to a healthy sex life?
Yeah, I mean, just life stuff. So if you have like relationship concerns, like outside of the sex, if you're not experiencing intimacy outside of sex, a lot of times it's hard to want to be connected to that person in that way. Over time, as your hormones change, sometimes that can impact your desire for it. So if you're not desiring it and you're also not prioritizing it, maybe you're not really having it. And so then that becomes a big issue in the relationship. Like, we're not doing it anymore. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
Someone's feeling unwanted. So it can sort of spiral, but a lot of it, like I said, it comes down to like miscommunication or just like not even talking about it at all. Like most,
Right.
like a third of adults don't feel comfortable talking about sex with their partners. So we just ignore it.
Wait. You got to slow that back down. Roll that one back. Did you say a third?
Hmm.
So 33% of adults do not talk about sex with their partner.
Hmm. And it
That's
might be more than that, people don't always tell the truth when they do surveys, so
a pretty big number.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. So which goes back to communication. So why do you
Right.
believe that is? Why do you believe that is that people are
Yeah,
not talking to their partners about sex? And this
I
could be
think
like
it's
married folks or in
right, no, all, like, adults with partners,
yeah.
so whether that's married, just a long-term relationship, or, like, if you're just dating someone,
Mhm,
but yeah, I think it's a lot of different things, and mostly just kinda like what you mentioned at the top of the show, just taboo, the shame, the stigma. So, we're not taught to do it either, so it's not something that we come into relationships knowing how to address, since no one's talking about it, and when they do talk about it, it's very much the same type of conversation. So, it's usually saying like, "Oh, things are great," like, "Oh, I just got laid," or "I did this, I tried this. Have you ever
mhm,
had a threesome? Yeah, it was great. This is I got to do this." And it's not necessarily talking about the things that people really need to know.
mhm,
It's more so for entertainment value, and so we just don't have the tools, and pair that with the shame and the stigma, it can be
mhm.
really hard to figure out where to start.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing that came to mind when I heard you speaking was maybe there being some sexual trauma that took place.
Mhm.
And that might be a barrier as well in terms of someone's ability to talk about sex and even explore sex in a healthy way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you've had past trauma and you haven't addressed it, you haven't worked through it, it can definitely pose a huge barrier for wanting to do it, number one. But then also being comfortable when you do it, because some people still do. And then also just knowing how to talk about it, and really being comfortable and confident in having that type of conversation.
Indeed, indeed. I see we have Annetta Blakely who has joined us. She's a clinician in North Carolina. Thank you for being here, Vaughn. So we are, talking about healthy sex and mental health. Healthy sex and mental health. We've been talking about the some of the barriers to a healthy sex life, which communication, stress, medical condition, relationship concerns, hormonal issues. And then you talked about somebody just not really being that into it anymore. So in that case, I think of like libido, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. And so what
Yes.
role does libido play in having a healthy sex life?
I mean, it can definitely impact your desire, right? Libido is my desire for, my want for, right? And so if people are struggling with hormones, if they're struggling with any like medical related concerns, and even sometimes like the medications that you take, there's side
Mhm.
effects that impact your sex life that you might not even realize because they don't necessarily list that as one of the top cons. They're going to tell you, you might have a heart attack, you might have a stroke, you might get diarrhea, but they don't get that far down the list to say, "Oh, you might experience low libido, or you
Right.
might experience vaginal dryness." They don't usually tell you that, so you have to really kinda look into that, but all of those things kind of come into play as far as making libido low, and a lot of times people think that their libido is low, but sometimes they don't understand that there's different ways to experience desire and arousal.
Mhm.
So a lot of times we think that you're just going to feel horny, that you're just going to experience that spontaneously, but sometimes that's not the case. And especially in long-term relationships, you got to create it. And so it might not be there naturally, and that doesn't mean something's wrong with you.
Interesting. All right. So we have Mr. Alonzo Morris, who is a clinician here in Tallahassee. He is shouting my
Mhm.
name. Yes, Alonzo, we talking about sex tonight. You can
Mhm.
join in this conversation. Healthy
Mhm.
sex and mental health. Healthy sex and mental health. Also, my girlfriend Susan from Virginia, Hampton specifically is on. Thank you for being here. So, mm, desire, that's a big one. We've had some conversations around desire here,
Mhm.
on I think it was probably Mindset Monday with Ozzy, Daniel, who's a clinician in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And so I think we definitely need to explore that a little more in terms of desire being, um, there are many aspects of desire, right?
Mhm.
And again, opening up our minds to exploring some of those different aspects, right? And it not
Right.
being one way. Okay.
Right, right.
Yeah.
There's no right way. It's just your way. Like whatever your way is, that is fine and that is okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Alonzo said a much needed conversation. Yes, 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 yes. And we got Miss Lucky Thomas on the massage fairy who is here in Tallahassee. Thank you for being here. So, whoo, all right. So, relationship concerns, you mentioned intimacy. And so, let's dive into that a little bit because I think intimacy is something that we, again, don't really explore a whole lot, but in terms of a conversation around what intimacy is. And sometimes
Yeah.
I think we think of intimacy, we equate it to sex, and intimacy
Mm,
is not sex. It can be, but it is not, like a hard, like when you talk about sex, you're speaking about, or you
right.
talk about intimacy, you're talking about sex. So talk to us a little bit about like how, relationship concerns or intimacy can be a barrier to having a healthy sex life.
Right. So when we talk about intimacy, the way that I break it down in simplest form is it's closeness. So
Mm.
you're the ways that you can feel close to a person. And when I break it down that way, a lot of people that begins to open up their mind because there's a lot of ways that you can feel close to someone. So sex is one of those ways. That is not the only way that you can feel close to someone. And so if we think about all of the different ways we can feel close to someone, think about spending time together. Maybe you have hobbies together. Maybe you like to read together. Maybe you like to adventure together. Whatever that is, emotional intimacy. You like to talk about your emotions, share your thoughts and your feelings. And being able to experience all of those types of intimacy, it only feeds into the physical and the sex. So if you're not close to them, you don't feel like they want to date you, you don't feel like they talk to you, maybe you guys don't even like hug or kiss throughout the day. If you're not doing any of those things, you're not feeling close to this person. And then that usually, most of those people don't really want to have sex at the end of the night or at the end of the day if they don't feel close in those other ways.
Hmm. So I call that connection. All right.
Hmm.
And so, for me, like there has to be a connection in order for, it to me to go well or for it to be healthy. It
Hmm.
means sex. And so, we kind of talked about this pre the broadcast, just how I think, for women, the foreplay begins like before we even get to the bedroom. It's like you calling to check on me or texting me or taking me to lunch or, writing me a note or,
Hmm.
it's mental a lot of times for us, right? And so with that being said, that to me, that helps to promote that closeness that I think, at least for me, that I want to
Hmm.
feel with, someone that I am um, wanting to have a healthy sexual relationship with.
Right. Yeah. And I talk about that too with foreplay. I challenge people to reconceptualize what that is, right? So foreplay is anything and sometimes everything that happens from the last time that you had sex all the way to the next time.
Come on.
So all everything that you're doing, and there's I kind of call it like a goalpost. So it can bring us closer to that or it can bring us further apart. So sometimes it is. I'm gonna send you the text. I'm gonna leave you a little note so you can find it in your lunch. I'm gonna get the car washed and get the oil changed for you. It's all of these little things that create that intimacy, that closeness, that connection. All of those things could be foreplay, and we're either getting ourselves closer to having sex again, or we're getting further away. So, oh, you didn't take the trash out, and I asked you to take it out 2 days ago.
Mm,
Now I'm frustrated, right? So I'm not even thinking about getting close to you because I'm mad now. Like, so
mm.
it's all of those things build up that intimacy outside. All of that is foreplay to me.
Okay. All right. So Alonzo said includes everything! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Yes, because we women tend to be detail oriented, and we are keeping score, right? So yes, that's again just something to keep in mind because it is, that's part of, I think for us, and I'm gonna speak for the women folk, that whole safety need, that whole protection piece, that whole need and want to be heard. Um, so yes, it does include everything, Alonza. We got Sister Ebonice who is on with us. She said, "Greetings, everyone. Peace, blessings, and happiness. Appreciate you being on here tonight, my sister." We are about halfway through our conversation. We have been talking about healthy sex and mental health. Healthy sex and mental health. And my special guest is Shamaree Brissett, who is an intimacy and relationship coach and specialist. based in Connecticut. But we have been talking about the barriers of having healthy sex. I didn't ask you all about defining what sex was to you all, though I'm tempted. I may circle back around. I don't know. But we've been talking about some of those barriers to having a healthy sex life. I want to talk about what are some tips or some ways that we can have a better sex life. I mean, we talked about the barriers, but what are some ways that we can maybe think outside of the box to have a better sex life?
So I'm not sure if it's out of the box, but the first thing we're gonna have conversations, right? So this we're going to talk to our partners,
Mhm.
and we're if we're in a relationship or if we're having a partner, right? We're going to have this conversation. I do have a freebie if you don't know what to say, because people love to tell me, oh, well, I don't know what to say. Okay, fine. You don't know what to say, but I have a freebie. I have 69 sex questions, so you don't have to think about what to say. You just
Whoa.
you read it off the paper. And so there's really no excuse. We should be having these conversations. That's the only way that we can make it any better. So we're gonna have these conversations, and while we're having these conversations, or if we do not have any partners, we are still going to do some exploration. We're gonna still do some answering of these questions, right? So figuring out the answers to these questions. Some of them are going to include, like, what is your definition of sex? So if you guys haven't figured that out yet, that is something that you can start to think of, right? But then it's also going to talk about things that maybe you need, what your ideal sex life is going to look like, frequency, all of that sort of thing is really going to help you to figure out what you like, what you need. And I encourage you to be very, very clear on what that is so that you can share that in these conversations with any partners.
Oh, that's very good advice. And so we'll tell the viewers how they can connect with you in just a little bit and get that list of 69 sex questions. I love that. But
Mhm.
conversation, again, it goes back to communication and, making sure that we are effectively communicating with our partners so that, we can have healthy relationships, have better sex lives, that sort of thing. I see we have Tangela Chipman who is joined us. She's here in Tallahassee. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. So, um, in terms of ways that we can have better sex, communication, conversation, what are some other things that we can do to improve our sex lives?
So this is gonna require that open mind, right? So we're gonna try the things. So a lot of times people will say it's not good or it's not working for them, they're not satisfied. But when a new idea comes up, they automatically have a judgment. They're like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that. Ew. People
Mhm.
do that. We're not going to have a judgment. We're going to try the things, right? And so a lot of times we are preventing ourselves from having pleasure because we're not wanting to do the thing because we have a judgment about it.
Mhm.
That might be the thing that you need. That might be the thing that feels the best for you, but you're
Mhm.
preventing yourself from having it because you created a judgment that nobody's even going to know that you did it. So really the judgment is from yourself because nobody's going to know except for the other person or people that are there.
Right.
So you're putting that judgment on yourself. We try to release those, and that's part of what I do. That's why I say we got to have an open mind. You got
Mhm.
to. It starts there, but you have to actually try stuff. You have to do new things, and you can do it very simple. If you're a vanilla person and you don't want to be kinky, you do not have to be kinky. You can still be very vanilla, but maybe changing the time of day, change the location. If you're very much a bed person, you don't have to do it in the bed. Get on the floor. You can go in the bathroom. You can go in the kitchen. There's so many ways to make it different without feeling like you have to hang upside down from the ceiling. There's ways that you can still create newness and spice without having to go to the extreme.
So you mean I don't have to hang off the chandelier?
You can, but you don't have
Gotcha. All right,
to.
gotcha. So trying something new, trying something different. Don't judge it. Just try it. You never know, you might like it. All right.
Right.
Mm,
Right. And don't as much as you can be in the moment. So practicing mindfulness and being very much in the present is important.
mm,
Notice what your body is doing because sometimes your brain will be telling you like, we're not doing this again, but your body is saying like, this is amazing. So really pay attention to what your body does in response to things and really kind of like take note and about how it's being done too. So like we know maybe I like to be kissed on my neck, but how? Like, do you
mm.
like it roughed?
Okay.
The speed that you like, the pressure that you like, you need to keep track of all of that.
Okay. I'm taking these notes, y'all. There we go. So yes, be in the moment, pay attention to your body and what it does, how it reacts, right? Um,
Mhm,
which is very important because this is, if you're trying something new, trying something different, you don't necessarily know how your body is going to react. But like you're saying, be present, be in the moment, let your guard down, don't have a judgment, and just try to enjoy yourself as much as possible. Now,
mhm,
one of the things that I want to mention, and I did a little bit of research before we came on here. I ran into a article that talked about the 12 tips for better sex. But the first part of it like talked about how sex is good for you. Okay. And I just want to
mhm,
saying that because again, we have maybe some of us have been taught that sex is bad and it's nasty, it's dirty, it's
mhm,
unholy, it's all of these things, right? And
right,
so this was from a medical website. I think it was WebX or MedX or something. I don't know. But anyway, it talked about how it's good for you. The oxytocin hormone improves your mood. It reduces stress and depression. It improves self-esteem. It helps you sleep better. It
mhm,
enhances your sense of intimacy. Okay. So there are some very evidence-based benefits of sex.
mhm,
Okay?
mhm,
So,
absolutely.
mm, mhm. So Nick has a question. He says, "How can very conservative church people improve their sex life, even if they are too embarrassed to even discuss it?"
So that, I mean, it's going to come down to kind of dismantling some of the beliefs that we hold. So I'm curious about the word embarrassed. Like, what is embarrassing about it, right? Because where is that embarrassment coming from? And then it's going to require a conversation. So there's research, there's information that you can find online. There are some self-help resources. I have a workbook. There's tons, like, and in my workbook, I list out tons of other resources. So there's a lot of things that you can look into on your own without having to tell someone like, hey, my sex life is bad, or like, I'm not happy. This is not, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't have to necessarily tell another person other than the one that you are engaging in sex with, right? So there's ways that you can do it on your own. It's easier if you have help. But that's not something that you don't have to run and tell everyone. And
Mhm.
then the other thing is being very selective and very aware of who you're choosing if you are seeking out a professional. So making sure that you're finding someone who is understanding of sex, because not all therapists are trained in that. So, like, we take one class in school about sexuality, human sexuality. Other
Mhm.
than that, we have to seek out additional education on our own. So, making sure that you're seeking someone who can give you the information you're looking for. If you're looking for someone who really understands it and they don't have that experience, they're probably not going to be that helpful. And that's going to make you feel worse probably over time because they're not going to have the answers you're seeking. So just being very aware of who you're selecting if you choose to get help. But there's self-help resources that you absolutely can do on your own until you are more comfortable with discussing it.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Nick. Like you said, there are a bunch of resources out there, whether that's books, that you can get from the library, or you can find things online
Mhm.
to help you, and that you can do privately in terms of not
Right.
being um, you know so public, if you will, about it. I see
Mhm.
Janetta has joined us. She is here in Tallahassee. Thank you for being here. So we are talking about healthy sex and mental health, healthy sex and mental health. So we've kind of touched on the mental health piece, but I like to explore that just a little bit deeper, from the standpoint that, of course, everything starts with mindset, right?
Mhm.
And so, in order to have a healthy sex life or a healthy sexual relationship, you got to get your mind right about it, right? Which
Mhm.
is some of what we've been talking about in terms of not having a judgment, being free, being comfortable. Of course, you know, you want to be with a partner or someone that you are, again, comfortable with. You have that intimacy, you have that connection with. And so,
Mhm.
and with that being said, you want to be able to express to your partner like what's going on, because again, it also goes back to communication. But sometimes I think we can get in our heads too much about
Mhm.
sex, right? And, maybe I'm not satisfying the person, or I'm not, I'm inadequate in some way, or, um,
Mhm.
maybe we get into comparisons because we, you know, saw something, and so,
Mm,
how
mhm.
visual, all that plays a whole role in all of that as well. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah, talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
yeah, no, I mean, I think even like when you talked about mindset, just having the belief that you deserve to feel pleasure, that it's okay for you to feel pleasure. So you can the question about like just conservative church people and sometimes within the church culture, sex is so shameful and for until you're married, right? And then the day you get married, all of a sudden you're supposed to know what to do and be comfortable, right? But you the whole time sex is bad, don't do it, don't do it. And so it's very hard to believe that I deserve it or to believe that it's okay for me to be doing it. And so just really starting there, like once you believe that you deserve it and that it's okay for you to do it, then it's being in the mind state that, okay, well, I accept my body, I embrace my body, and really being able to believe that and believe that you're capable of experiencing pleasure or even giving someone else pleasure.
Mhm.
So I think mindset is definitely a huge part of it. And even just being present, like we said before, being present and being able to be in the moment enough to experience it, all of that comes down to your mind and where you are mentally.
Absolutely. So we got a few comments, and Sonia B has joined us. She is an intimacy coach and certified sexologist based here in Tallahassee. Thank you for being on with us, Sonia. All right. So Abaniche said there is a lack of communication and true connection in our sexual experiences. Others are choosing the wrong partners to connect with. This could drain or deplete your mental and physical energy. Mhm.
Mm,
Indeed. Again, I feel like, you said it in terms of the communication being important, and, slowing things down, or, stopping it if you're not comfortable, if there's an issue that comes up. We got Dr. A on, who is in Jacksonville. Thank you for being here. And she said it's all compounded by menopause.
mm,
Woo.
mhm.
Have you had any clients that have been going through menopause, and that has altered their sex life, their ability to have a healthy sex life?
Yes, I mean, I've spoken to a few women who mentioned menopause and just like the challenges. And I think that with menopause specifically, there is kind of the additional challenge of first, you kind of have to relearn your body and have different expectations, which you should be doing throughout your life anyway. When it comes to all parts of your life and your relationship, things evolve, things change. So, like
Right.
reevaluating where you are with it at this point in life. So, even now, like I haven't gone through menopause, I'm not there yet, but the sex life and the relationship that I desired, that I enjoyed, I don't know if I enjoyed it, but when I was 20, it's not the same now in my 30s. Like and it probably is not going to be the same when I get to my 40s. And so that is ever evolving. So you should be kind of reevaluating, but also just embracing what it is now. So a lot of people, they have a hard time accepting like, oh, well, I used to be a more sexual person and now my libido's gone. Now I experience vaginal dryness, it's painful, it's not enjoyable, I'm not into it anymore. And they have to really come to terms with that as an individual and on an individual level. And then also kind of explaining and kind of educating their partner too, because men barely understand periods. So then for them to now have to understand menopause and what that consists of and how it can impact the sex life is difficult too. But that kind of goes back to really expanding our definition of sex, right? So maybe there are going to be times where penetration is painful, but what else can we be doing that's still sexual in nature? It's still a sexual connection. It's still us having sex. It could still be satisfying, and believe that, like truly believe that it could be.
Okay. No, thank you for sharing that. Nick had a comment. He said, yes, once your sexual appetite has been suppressed so long in church culture, unmarried singles, how can you ignite it once you get married?
This depends on like how deeply you hold those beliefs, but a lot of times, there's like the challenges where they say, try this position on this day, try this position another day, just making it more like an experience, like an adventure. So you can kind of remove some of the pressure because we don't know what it's going to be like if we haven't done it, right? So, like, we're going into this together, we're going to experience this new thing and not necessarily having those expectations, but you can take it as a challenge. Like, let's try different things out, let's discover each other's bodies and
Mm.
take it in that direction. It's more like a curiosity. We have the rest of our lives to figure this out, but let's start now and let's try these different ways. And that can kind of spark it. And usually, most people, if they're not, if they're a sexual person, if they enjoy whatever they're doing, that feeds the desire to want to do it again. Especially women. That's how we work. If it was good, then we're more likely to want to do it again. If it was bad, we're a little bit less likely to want to do it again. But
Mm.
that plays a part. So if you're able to start it somewhere, from there, typically, if it's exciting, if it's fun, if you keep it fun and exciting, then it's easier to keep it going.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Sonya B said it requires being connected enough with yourself so that you can trust yourself enough to be honest about your experience and your needs and desires. Yes. So, um,
Mhm.
Sonya recently was talking about self connection and the importance of that. So, agreed, agreed,
Mhm.
agreed. We get to be accepting of our bodies as we age, understanding that our bodies will change, which is going to impact how we experience sex. Yes, 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 yes. Indeed. And then she said, yes, certainly an adventurous and curious spirit is going to be very helpful to support you in coming out of your shell. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Ebonice says sex should be about breathing as one, feeling your partner through all six senses, wanting to please your partner and not being afraid to ask questions. Take it slow. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That article that I ran across, taking it slow was actually one of the, or taking your time was one of the tips that it gave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the not being afraid to ask questions because we're always learning. Like you can always learn something. And like I mentioned, we change over time. So even if you've been with this person 20 years, there could be a time like maybe they're into something different now. Like their body has changed a little bit. Maybe they
Mm,
want you to touch them in a different place now. Maybe it feels a little bit different. And so you're always going to learn something. And so just not being afraid to learn and not feeling embarrassed or ashamed if they tell you no, maybe do it like this, or suggest things to you. It's because they want to experience that connection with you, not because they want to point a finger.
I like that. Because I was thinking in while you were talking about how again maybe we are intimidated by um, slowing things down or taking the time to ask a question. But as has been stated, our bodies are changing as we age. Things that maybe were pleasing to us 10 years ago may not be pleasing to us anymore. Or,
Mhm.
so being able to lean in, to explore, to, try something new and to continue to be inquisitive and, um, trying to again try to satisfy your partner, you be satisfied within yourself, so there that oneness that she spoke of I think is also very important. So she
Mhm.
said there's too much focus on the outcome or the orgasm instead of just being in the moment. Yes.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
That's a big one. A very big one. So many people. And obviously, like if you want to have orgasms, obviously, I would love to help you to get there. But you absolutely do not have to orgasm in order to enjoy the experience.
Hmm.
And so I try to get people to open up their mind. And in the orgasm, typically on average, it only lasts seconds, and most sex lasts at least minutes, at least, right? So why can't we enjoy the minutes too? Like why are we waiting and only holding on to this 10 seconds that we're going to experience at the end? I want people to love the whole thing, whether the orgasm happens or not.
Yes. So a really great point. I think that, at least it's been my experience sometimes that the sex is rushed as you are have eloquently described. And so um, if we could slow things down and really, you know, enjoy the moments, like you said, enjoying the minutes and not focus so much on the seconds. And Ebenezer say yes, orgasms are very unhealthy for men. So we got Miss Jeanette tell us on who is down in South Florida. She said, "Do you think women get sex confused with love? It may be difficult for some women to separate the two. Experiencing a good sexual encounter doesn't mean we're in love. Being able to regroup when the partner goes away after the affair that he may have not been thinking about love." Good questions.
I think that part of it, obviously, it comes from just like the hormones you mentioned. There's a lot of happy little hormones that are released. Same
Mhm,
type of hormones that get released when you fall in love, like that feeling, that happiness, that pleasure, that connection. So, like, we feel that. But a lot of times, I think that men are much better at compartmentalizing than women are.
mhm,
That which is why a lot of them, even if the world is falling apart outside, they probably a lot of them are still able to engage in sex or physical intimacy, usually a lot more easily than women can.
mhm,
They're just better at it generally. Obviously, exceptions to everything, but generally they're better at it. So for them, a lot of times they are able to kind of tap back into the logical, irrational minds and really kind of take the situation for what it is. And I think sometimes too, women are just a little bit hopeful. Most of us are socialized to believe in love and want the happy ever after
right.
and want to find that. So whoever it may be at the time, it's not even necessarily about Billy. It might we don't I might not even like Billy, but just the idea that maybe Billy could be the one, um, paired with those happy hormones, it kind of creates that. And sometimes we don't tap back into that rational mind to, okay, let's take a step back and really look at the situation for what it is. And that's why I think a lot of people sometimes do have a little bit of difficulty with
Mhm.
distinguishing what it is.
Right, right. No, again, excellent point. But I think if we spend more time loving ourselves, then we'll be in a much better position, right?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
All right, and no pun intended there. So, DJ mentioned about multiple orgasms depleting the life force of men when they are not with the right partner. She said this is why they have prostate issues. And then Sonia also agreed with Abenici about being too outcome oriented. We need to be more pleasure focused. So I'm going to, as we prepare to wrap up, challenge the viewers, not only the ones that are on with us right now, but the ones that are watching the replay, to open our minds, eliminate the judgment, right? Eliminate the judgment, try something new, try something different, and to slow it down. I'm giving you a whole lot of homework. Slow it down and be more pleasure focused, as Sonya B just said. Be more pleasure focused, not outcome focused. Right.
Mhm,
So y'all got a lot of homework to do, and I want to know how
mhm.
that goes for you. So as we again prepare to wrap up, I want to give Miss Brissett the opportunity to give us some closing remarks and tell folks how they can connect with you.
Absolutely. So I just want to kind of piggyback off what you said. Just definitely explore, 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 explore. Keep an open mind. Try different things, and have the conversations. Like we need to be talking a lot more about what's going on, what's going to happen, different things that we're interested in. People are not going to know if you're not having the conversations. And like we mentioned before, people have different definitions for things. So you might think you're having a sex all the time, and your partner might not feel like you are. So you really have to define what it looks like for you, and make sure that you're listening when you are having these conversations, not just trying to get your point across, but making sure that you really are listening as well, so that everyone can be satisfied in the end. And if you are a person who is seeking outside help, so I have resources. I sent a link. If you want to a freebie, you want to follow me on social media, if you want any of the products that I'll offer, I have a workbook, or if you want to work with me, I'm happy to help. I am accepting clients currently, so you can set up a free breakthrough call with me. It's a 30-minute call. We'll talk about what's going on to make sure we're a good fit, but I'm more than happy to assist you. It is possible for you to have pleasure. It is possible for you to have happy, healthy relationships. It's possible for you to have a very satisfying sex life. And it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, you absolutely can. I've been there. Trust me. I understand it's difficult, but if you got some help, it's a little bit easier. So I got you.
All right. So you heard it right here. Shamaree says she gotcha. She gotcha.
Hmm.
She gotcha. She gotcha. So I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, but I still feel like we have just scratched the surface.
Hmm.
More that we can discuss as it relates to healthy sex and mental health. But we gave them some marching orders, some homework, so hopefully they will get to it.
I mean,
And
hopefully it's fun homework though. So like it should
yeah,
be.
exactly. Exactly. If you all have found this conversation to be beneficial, let us know in the comments by giving us a thumbs up or a heart or some hand claps or some words, and let us know. I see Ishmael Rents, my FAMU freshman classmate, is on. He said, good teaching and informative, focus on satisfying your partner as the primary goal ensures both are. Yes, 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 yes. I think that great. Who was it? India Irie and a Music Soul Child that talked about if we make each other happy, then we just can't lose. I think that's
Mm.
in their song. Yes. All right. Tangela has given us a green check. Thank you so much. For those of you who may be new to the platform, of course, I definitely invite you to subscribe to the Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel. Subscribing is support, and we need all the support we can get. We are live on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. And our focus is primarily mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities. All right, we got Sonya B saying, "Great job, ladies. Good conversation." Yes, thank you, Sonya B, for being on with us and giving your input. We appreciate it. We are seeking to, have healthy sex lives. We are sexual beings. And sex is not dirty or nasty or something that should be forbidden. And so we want to encourage folks to have healthy sex lives and also have great mental health as it relates to that. All right. We got
Mhm.
Miss Lori on. Great show. Thank you, Miss Lori, for being on with us. And Susan, great conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right. So I think we're gonna call it a night. But look,
Mhm.
let's keep the conversation going. Share this with somebody that you think could benefit from it. And again, open your mind. Open your mind around sex.
Mhm.
Open your mind and stop judging. All right, good people.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, my mom just said great show. All right, mom. All right, we'll see y'all next time. Bye.